All right, everyone. Welcome back, Coast to Coast podcast. We're here for episode 52, the Stanley Cup 2021 finals, starting tomorrow, Monday. We are on this channel 6 subscribers, believe it or not, 6 away from 100, which is a big milestone for the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go down there, do that right now. Right now, we'll stop for a sec. Yeah.
Subscribe, hit the smash button, smash the like button.
But we're here. We want to talk about the reviews of the past two series. Honestly, I thought it was a great Final Four of matchups. It was close, sweated it the whole way through, and we got a final preview. We got to get our predictions out there, and maybe we'll rhyme off a couple topics, expansion talk, some other stuff along the way here.
How do you feel as a Vegas fan losing to Montreal?
I feel like we screwed it up. To be honest, like, I don't like the way the goalies were managed. The team didn't play great. We were missing our biggest weakness got exposed by Montreal, and that was down the middle. We were missing Chandler Stevenson for a couple of games, and he's our number one center. And after that, it falls off pretty quick and then you're up against a team like Montreal, who they have quite a bit of center depth, bringing in Stahl, and Deneau is a monster in the faceoff draws defensively. He destroyed us, and I don't know. Going into the series, and Kristen made fun of me for this, but I said we're going to dominate. I'm sure everyone's been saying that every time they walked in against Montreal all playoff long. So I was like, yeah, we're just going to roll over them. And it felt like we were going to with the first game. It was 4-1. We kind of beat them handily. Fleury looked good. But then it kind of all came falling apart in game 3 when we're up 2-1 with 2 minutes left. I actually made a small video on the channel of Fleury when he mishandles the puck and causes them to tie it up and send it to overtime, and we lose in overtime. That was like the switch, and that's where, for me, Peter Dubois, or whoever decided how to go with the goalies, I don't understand what was going on there. I haven't liked how he's managed goalies ever since he's come to this team to begin with. So.
I will say I don't envy the task of what DeBoer has to do picking between those goalies that the GM has paid substantially for. Like, you're paying for 2 goalies to be in the net every night, which we know you can't really have. I think after the mishandling of the puck, it's made it easier for them to look at maybe moving Fleury. Maybe he goes to another expansion team.
You know what's funny about that mishandling the puck? Remember, his prodigy did the same exact thing in the first round. Jari.
Who's that? Oh, yeah.
He cost his team the game the exact same way.
That's true. And that Pittsburgh hated him for it.
Did did Fleury do something like that in the juniors?
Yeah, when he was in the juniors, and I think it was overtime versus the Americans, he came out to play the puck and he shot it into the American forechecker's chest, bounced off the chest back into his own net.
I didn't know that. I have to go check that out.
Yeah, he shoots it in, he goes diving back for it, and then he's just sitting there like this, just like, what am I doing? What did I just do?
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, so with that, though, like, I understand, like, I thought he played it right. It was game 5 when the goalie decision kind of was strange to me.
Is that when the first time Leonard came in?
No, going to Leonard, they went to Leonard in game 4, and he won 2-1, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, if I'm getting eliminated, Fleury's gonna be in net.
Yeah.
So it's 2-2 at this point, and Leonard just won. So I'm like, I would have went back to Leonard, but instead they flipped back to Fleury. Why not? Like, we talk about it,
and then to Leonard again.
Yeah, and then to Leonard again in an elimination game, his 3rd game of the playoffs. Where he hasn't played.
That part doesn't make sense.
He hasn't played a lot this series.
Yeah.
Or not this series, this season, because he was injured, and Fleury was like Vezina caliber level, who played the majority of the games. So that part didn't make sense. Like, I would have. It would have made sense to me. I was shocked to see Fleury in game 5. The whole reason you have these 2 goalies is for this exact kind of series situation where you get into a little bit of a pickle, and you can Fleury. He messed up, but he was still great. But
Mm-hmm.
let's give him a rest, and they did the same thing in the first round. Leonard got lit up by Colorado in that one game where they gave him a rest and went right back to Fleury. But he won this time, so like
Yeah.
we're in a 2-2 situation. Let's go back out with the hot hand. Even if we lose, we can go back to Fleury for the elimination game, and if
Yeah,
we win, we
exactly.
can keep riding Leonard. Like
Yeah.
I just don't
That's
see.
where I didn't get lost at the first time that they put Leonard in. That
No,
one
me
made
either.
sense to
That
me the
made
more
total
I thought
sense.
about it
Yeah,
and the more I thought about rest and all that other stuff. Like
and that's why you
it
have
was
the
a
two
good
goalies.
time to do
Yeah,
it. Exactly. It was a good time to go that way, but then it was the decision after that game that where I didn't get it. But I mean, for all we know, maybe Fleury wasn't feeling well or whatever, right? So
yeah. There is that. But again, and then after Fleury loses for them to go down 3-2, I would have went back to Fleury again. I wouldn't have went back to Leonard at that point. You
yeah.
chose who your guy is to carry you, and I think you die with Fleury, um, personally. And as much as
Mm.
we came super close, like they almost came, went to overtime, but
So let me ask you, in the goaltending with the amount of money they have tied up, do you want to see them come back with both next year, or do you think that it's time to move off one of them and
I
commit
think
to the other?
I think money is better served with one goalie of the two.
Yeah.
And they need to address the center right now.
Which guy would you be happier to see stay for the next, let's say, 3 years?
Probably Leonard.
Yeah.
3 years. Fleury's at the tail end of his career. In my eyes.
He's got like
I
a season or
love
two left.
Fleury.
Yeah.
Like he's like probably one of my best favorite goalies all time of jersey and all that. But I'm a realist.
Yeah.
I don't die.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not like the. Yeah, you know me.
Yeah. For sure.
But
So I mean, yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up the Montreal Vegas, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think that you kind of nailed it with the center depth, and I think that Vegas will be another aggressive team in the trade market.
they were talking.
I
You
don't know.
probably caught this on the pod of the Dangle one, where they were talking about what was the last team to win the cup that didn't have a true number like one center, and
Yeah,
they couldn't come up with one for like 20 years.
yeah, yeah,
So Vegas was
yeah,
definitely missing that. And Chandler Stevenson, he's good, but I don't know if he's number one center and a top NHL team kind of caliber.
yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know enough about them, but I do know that when you say the four names of center depth that Vegas has, it doesn't seem, excuse me, it doesn't seem like the strongest of sorts. So,
yeah. But this other series with Tampa Bay and the Islanders, that one went
mm,
7. I think you called it right on the button. I can't remember what you called, but with
I
Tampa
don't
Bay,
remember.
it was a back and forth series. Like Islanders won game 1, and then Tampa came back, won the next 2 games. Islanders made it 2-2. Tampa Bay rolls in there and puts up an 8-goal game, which was at that point you kind of expected Islanders. They're done. They put up 8. It's 3-2. They're probably gonna get closed out, but they bounced back. And game 6 was a nice 3-2 win in overtime. So and then game 7
Mm.
comes around. Anything can happen. 1-0 game 7. Like last time that's happened. It's pretty.
And Vasilevsky is 3-0 with 3 shutouts in series clinching games this season. And he including last year, he's 4-0,
Yeah.
which is insane. But I think we probably have the two best goalies in the league facing off this year, or
Yeah.
at least two of the top couple, anyways.
Yeah. For sure. Makes me think about our fantasy league. Is Carey Price on waivers right now?
Yeah, we know Carey Price is not a regular season guy.
That's true. That's true.
He's probably not the guy that you want to bank on unless he's having that season.
But yeah, Tampa Bay's going to be looking for back-to-back cups. When was the last time that happened?
Chicago, LA, one of the two.
They go back-to-back?
I think so.
Okay.
I think LA did.
I think you're
I
right.
don't know if Chicago did or if they went on off on off.
Yeah.
I think Chicago had 3 and 5 years, but it might have been on off on off.
Yeah, the Penguins were always one on, one off when they would win.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, looking at the next round, got 4 games. Well, not 4 games left. I shouldn't say that. We have potentially 7 games left.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant to say, but we have one series left. 4 to 7 games. What do you think?
I think it's everyone's gonna be picking the same team. The amount of games, I just don't know how much or how Montreal can compete with this. We're not like I know we've been saying that every round. Like I don't know how they can hold up, but like now we're at the finale now. Like you're actually against the best team in the league.
So why does it have to stop now?
It doesn't. I don't.
Kucherov has broken ribs. How good could he maybe
Is he?
Maybe
Are they
maybe
actually
not
broken though? That's what they're saying. Yeah, I don't know.
I was told he has 2 broken ribs or 2 cracked ribs. Might not be broken, but cracked.
So Tampa
Still,
Bay to me,
problems breathing.
Tampa Bay is Vegas, but like better. They have a better goalie. They have the same depth, probably the same depth on defense, but also the best defender in Hedman.
Mm.
And they have centers that Vegas didn't have. They have like 3 centers. Depth.
But they do not have the destiny that is behind the Montreal Canadiens.
How much of a percentage factor is destiny in your decision?
100%.
All right, so are you taking
I'm taking the Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens are winning the Stanley Cup.
Going with Montreal, huh?
Yeah, I told you. I had a dream about it.
I know. I know. For those of you that are new to the channel, we go over this often where Tori gets a vision and they come true. It's messed.
Yeah.
So like one at the beginning of this playoffs was Montreal was going the distance. I don't know how. He was talking about
it was in the first round when they're playing the Leafs.
You can go back to the first round episode where we're talking about who's going where, and he's telling how he just has this vision of Montreal. Can't explain it. Well, he did explain it actually. You have to go back.
Yeah, it was just a dream. Yeah,
dream.
I had a dream.
I had a dream.
But yeah, I had a dream, and
we're here.
Why stop now? Well, I mean, I didn't dream that they came to the finals and lost. I had a dream that they beat. I don't remember in the dream who they played.
Yeah.
But now that I'm looking back and trying to think about it, I do remember a bit of blue. But I don't recall if it's like the Tampa blue or the Islanders blue. It could be either. So I don't like. Blue. I think in my dream they played the Islanders, which is why I was so weirded out, being like, how did they play the Islanders for the Cup? Which is why I didn't take note of the team, because I thought like that doesn't even make sense. Why would I remember that? But it still makes sense in that capacity. Like in normal world, these teams, whoever got through, would have never played for the Cup, right? Like the funny fact that Steve Dangle said too, this will be the second time in a row that the NHL, 2 of the final teams in the Stanley Cup final will be in the same division the following year. Because Tampa and Dallas were in the same division, and now
it's the same kind of thing with Montreal playing Vegas last round, is that those 2 teams will never play outside of the Stanley Cup in a round probably ever again.
Yeah, probably not.
And probably not in the Stanley Cup, because what are the odds of that?
Exactly, right? So yeah, I mean I have Habs in 7.
Wow. I got Tampa in 5.
Habs in 7, and it's gonna be a 1-0 game 7.
With Price with the shutout?
Wow. Because Vasilevsky will also get the quote-unquote shutout. It'll go overtime. It'll be a 1-0 overtime or maybe double overtime game in game 7.
Now we're just getting out of control.
This part wasn't in my dream, so I'm just making shit up now. But I do think that it's destiny. I think Montreal is going to win.
When we started this podcast, a lot of it was just to like document the craziness that does occur. Like when we started, never did we think we were going to see Tampa Bay, Montreal in the Stanley Cup final 2 years from when we started the podcast. There's a 0 chance of that happening. No. And now a pandemic later, and here we are. That we've come so far. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good series, though. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's good for hockey in a way. Like I know I've said in the past that it would have been terrible for hockey if it was Montreal and New York Islanders. I think this is better for hockey because they're in the same division. I think that this has sparked a new rivalry. Like I know Montreal and Tampa kind of didn't always love each other. I felt like there was always this like, Tampa
Yeah,
didn't
but you
love
wouldn't have looked at
Montreal.
those two and been like, those are the guys that have a rivalry in this division.
Exactly, yeah. But I think now it's something that's there, so it's good for the league. So, and I also think it's good for the league because you have a team that's built one way, and you have another team that's built a completely different way,
It's yeah,
and we'll
and
see.
you gotta admit, like, it's funny because that division, we always talk about the division being the strongest and how it
Mhm.
sucks to compete, and this is just proof in the pudding here, where two of them are in the finals, and yeah,
You have teams like Boston and Toronto and whatever complaining that saying, hey, like we're the top couple teams in the division. We have to go through each other in rounds one. And they're like, oh, well, everyone does. Well, now they have even more validity to that statement because they've
the
got two
Sabres
guys
are
in
gonna
the
have they have a
finals.
lot of hurdles to jump over to even get into the playoffs in this division. The poor team, man.
Yeah, because there's Tampa, there's Florida, there's Boston, there's Montreal, Ottawa's getting better. Detroit's still back there, but I'm sure they'll be here eventually with Yzerman at the helm.
No,
Uh,
Detroit's
I
not in our division, are they? Oh yeah, they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
So
I
just a
forget.
random note on Detroit. I feel like Detroit won't be here until they're here. I feel like they're not going to be good, and then all of a sudden they're going to be like, "Whoa,
Pretty good, yeah.
where did they come from?" So we'll see.
Yeah,
Look what Eiserman did with Tampa.
I could see it being
He
a
built a good
similar
team.
route to kind of how Colorado. Well, Colorado had though on their way up, they had one year where they were really good, and they went back to crap for.
Yeah.
But with Patrick Waugh and all that, but it could be similar in that.
Like with Detroit, they've been drafting wingers and defensemen for a long time now. We'll see which one's actually room to be, but they don't have their guy in net really yet. They have one guy, but like I still think they need a second kind of future goalie to kind of battle him, and then I think that they have a chance to kind of show up.
Yeah,
Same thing like anything. If you don't have a goalie, there's no point talking about you. You're not going to be competitive, right?
yeah, yeah. Do you think the refs are gonna ruin the final?
Speaking about officiating,
That's my
um,
transition. Yeah. No, it's been interesting. It's just sad because it's such a theme. Like there's been a couple themes on this podcast like the whole time, and one of them's officiating and being consistent, and that's we could beat this drum to death.
I genuinely feel like this round will probably be the best officiated round that we've seen to date. Because everybody's watching, everybody's talking. What better way to quiet it than have an actual good officiated round? Because if there's a good officiated round and the cup's given out, you can't complain about the officiating as much anymore.
If this series goes 4-0 quickly and the reffing's good, but it's a 4-0 sweep of, well, I guess if it's Montreal, it's
Won't
a
be.
pretty big story. But
Won't
like,
be.
it feels like it's kind of like, oh, let's just get the
You've
season out of the way and like,
you've already contradicted yourself. The referee's not getting involved. Yeah, let's not kid ourselves. The referees are going to make sure it's not a short series.
um,
The more games the Montreal Canadiens are involved in the finals when they quote unquote shouldn't be
they
is
got to go
better
at
for the
least
league.
6, right? So they can host all
Oh
their
yeah,
home games.
oh yeah, for sure. It's going at least 600%. And I bet you there's at least one game if it's kind of like 3-0. I bet you there's or like 2-0. I bet you there's a game where something happens where it's like, oh, here we go again. Just and then it's like, here, what are you gonna do about it, right? Like
Hey, it keeps
I don't
our
know.
podcast interesting. There's always something to talk about. That's the beauty.
It
Always
keeps it
something.
consistent.
At
The only
least
thing consistent about officiating is what we talk about and about how bad and inconsistent it is. That's the most consistent thing about it.
that and what is a hit and what the suspensions are going to be. We never we can't put our finger on that either.
Yeah.
But no, it's been good. It's been a fun season. I honestly I've been happy to do this podcast with you all season. We've been pretty good at being it on a regular basis and really sticking to it. It's been a like we talked about a little bit off here. It's been a little bit of a grind going through some of this pains since now our teams are out.
Hmm.
Continuing to watch hockey, but I think I'm gonna stick it through this final. I think it's gonna be a good final, so it's gonna be some worth watching.
Yeah. It's hard for me just because of everything that's happened. Obviously, it's like the heartbreak. It's like seeing your ex with somebody, right? Like
Yeah,
having a
some new
blast
hot
and
fucking guy.
yeah, coming out of a personal jet in some fucking hot island somewhere that you're like, I could never afford that. I couldn't do that for you. It's just kind of like It's kind of like that's where I'm at right now, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, can I just get off the computer and go and do something where you're not sitting in front of, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm ready for the off season. I'm ready to get into expansion talks. I'm ready to see this crazy off season. I think it's going to be insane. I think we're going to be having pop-up videos because of the amount of stuff that's going to be going on. It really, really reminds me. I know we were talking before this, but the feeling I had this summer where the PK Subban and Shea Weber trades happened, the same day that Taylor Hall for Adam Larson,
Yeah.
and the same season that Phil Kessel ended up in Toronto. All those trades were kind of, especially the two defenseman ones, were kind of bang bang, and they were huge at the time out of nowhere. But really, at that time, it was teams resetting their needs because it wasn't going to work if they didn't.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's exactly what we're looking at. We have a bunch of teams who have extra forwards who need defensemen, or we have teams who have extra defensemen who need centers, or centers who need goalies, or whatever. Like there seems to be teams who have a large amount of the same thing and missing something, and that just seems like a prime place
How
for
quickly after
deals.
the end of the season the expansion draft is going to be like on us faster than anything, right?
It's a week later. It's basically every weekend. Once the cup is handed out, every weekend there'll be something.
All right, it's great. Like it's almost
And
like
I
hockey's
feel
not.
like I was gonna say I feel like the NHL also asks teams because you can theoretically make trades right now. But I feel like the NHL asked like just hold off, and then once the cup's given out,
Yeah,
give them 48 hours, and then just go nuts.
yeah, let us just like use the attention to broadcast the final of our sport where what we should be celebrating it, and then everyone can start going, hey, and get their fans all riled up like how bad their trades are going to be
Yeah.
and whatnot.
I think
it's so cool.
I think we're gonna see a amped up commercials though for the Kraken in this final. I think you're gonna see a lot more like introduction,
Kraken
just
talk.
being like, "Hey, like it's coming," like whatever,
Like
just
there's an
kind of getting
octopus
people
arm
into it.
coming out of this.
Yeah, yeah. So,
No,
what are you gonna say
I
there?
was just gonna say it's so great because like we're gonna have 32 teams now, and every one of those 32 teams has like their own story and their own like unique situation that has to be managed over these next couple days. And we're what, like 4 months away, 4 months away from possibly a fresh new season. Everyone getting a fresh new start at the very beginning. 0-0. Ottawa Senators 0-0, and all those Buffalo Sabres, they're gonna be 0-0. Like everyone's got a fresh new start, and I always find that one of the most exciting times of the season. It's the
Yeah.
brand new fresh start.
There's one team that I think is not looking forward to its next 6 months. You know who I'm referring to?
No.
The Arizona Coyotes.
Okay.
They're in a lot of trouble.
You think so, huh?
I didn't put this on our list to talk about, but it just popped into my mind.
Hey,
Like,
you know who else wasn't on our list that we talked about? Detroit Red Wings. So that's what happens.
that's true.
On the Coast to Coast podcast, you don't know what we're going to talk about.
Where we're gonna end up. The Coyotes are in a really bad problem because it sounds like they want to move off of Ekman Larson. And when they tried to move him this time last year, when people still believed he could be a top defenseman, they only had one suitor, and that was the Bruins. And the Bruins didn't offer a lot in return. And now it sounds like the Bruins would still take him, but they want Arizona to eat money.
Yeah, like they're getting even less now, right?
Yeah, and you can't give them away and eat money on a team like Arizona. And like you don't have picks, so you can't trade them through another team to eat money for you if you really had to do that. Like you don't have prospects, so like
You know, I think if there's ever a year for someone to have a breakout season, that's probably no one's even thinking about talking about Clayton Keller. This
yeah,
could be his year. It could be. You never know.
maybe. I
That's
think
my
that
closet fantasy pick of the season.
I hate to say this, and this should probably be clipped. I feel like this is the final season
In
the
Arizona.
Coyotes.
All right, well, we'll write that down.
The 2021-2022 season, I do believe, will be the final. I see way too many comparables because remember when all of a sudden the Thrashers were like, "Oh, they're going to Winnipeg." What? Where did that come from? Like, remember how sudden that seemed to have happened?
There were
You know, obviously,
rumblings, but yeah.
it wasn't mainstream, but then there was
Yeah.
also rumblings like, "Oh, they may go here," but then all of a sudden it was like, "Oh, they're going there." Like, obviously, they didn't overnight make this decision and figure out all the like details, right? So like I feel like at this point Arizona's at the point where
See,
it's kind of like, hey, do this by this date or we're going to be in city X or city Y.
yeah, I could see it, but I also do kind of think that NHL has some interest in keeping them there because of it's the South Middle West, which is kind of opportunity in general. If you can turn people onto the sport, like it's just exposure to that part of a nation and that part of the country that doesn't really get a whole lot of exposure to hockey otherwise. And I think that they're not done with expansion. Like they're gonna want more teams in the future. And
Can you continue to expand when you have a quote unquote problem child that is the Coyotes?
well, once your family gets 36 people big, you're gonna have one problem child.
Yeah, but the way that I see it is I don't see the fundamental possibilities of them being successful. Like the main thing that keeps me from believing it is that when they agreed to move to Scottsdale, they moved out of a rink that was essentially kind of downtown. So
Yeah.
there was taxis, Ubers, your parents could drop you off, whatever. You could get to games different ways. God forbid you bicycle or walk or something an hour and a half, whatever, right? Right now, their arena's essentially in a giant open field. Tons of parking,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no subway, there's no transit. It's a
More for from what I
$45 Uber
understand.
ride.
Yeah, it's more for like the middle class, upper echelon people in the area that drive it. That's the kind of crowds that they attract.
Yeah.
Um,
But that type of class tends to want to come and cheer on a good team, not a bad team. So I don't not believe that when they're a good team, people will come.
mhm.
I think that if you put a good team in any city, it will fill up a rink.
Yeah, that's true.
To be honest,
Yep.
and I'm not trying to slag Arizona at all, but I'm just saying that like if they're a good team in the playoffs, yes, they'll
Well, they were
make
trying to be
money.
good. They were trying to cheat, so they were trying.
And now they've had a GM turn their back on them. They've been caught cheating. They've been fined and suspended of these picks and stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't have any draft picks last year. They have 3 draft picks this year. I think it's a second, a fifth, and a sixth.
Yeah,
So
and
like,
unfortunately, they haven't really drafted that all-star
and they've
guy.
had 3 draft picks who have opted to not sign and go back into the draft, and they've had 2 guys who have opted to not sign and move on.
Hmm.
So like if you're a kid and you're like, I can either not sign and go back into the draft and probably end up on any other team, or I can sign in Arizona and like drive to their sketchy facilities and like that's the thing is like you look at the Leafs, they have a state of the art facility center. You look at Arizona, it's like your public gym. Now it's not really, but I'm just saying in comparison, like it's how can you set your players up for success when you're not
That's one
setting
thing
your
I've,
players
I've
up
been
for success?
noticing. This is a little bit off topic. Is the difference in facilities of different organizations, and the reason it's off topic is because I've noticed by watching Trevor Bauer's baseball vlog when he goes to these different stadiums, you see noticeable differences in the facilities. Some of them are like a little rough, like Oakland, for instance. And then you go to the Dodgers, and they have top of the line like trainers, facilities. They have conditioning coaches that have like this analytical approach to like how they are on every aspect of their training. It's just like no wonder some of these teams just can't turn the page because they're not investing in the right things.
Yep. But they believe that that's only one part of it or a minor part of it, and it's like, no, like if you're offering a dude, whoever it is or person, whatever, the same money, but you can go to state of the art and whatever, and yeah, maybe this year is nothing for you, but you can actually get something out of it.
Yeah.
Market yourself later to another team. You're gonna do that 100 times out of 100. You're not gonna go to Oakland and be like, "Okay, this year is just a stall for me," and do nothing for a year. And that, like, sure, if you sign a long-term contract and that's your place and whatever, but like,
You're
I
not
don't
reaching max
see
potential either if you're not getting
exactly.
like these people. Yeah, I don't know. I
Well, then
agree.
you have the Leafs who were fined because they basically all their draft picks they sent open invitations for everybody to come use their facilities. And Nick Robertson came and he basically, from what I know, his situation wasn't the greatest, so he wanted to get away from distractions and wanted to dedicate into training.
Yep.
So he basically put all of his time in the one off season with all the Leafs facilities and trainers and whatever, and he had an amazing OHL season, and then he came up, and all the other teams got mad And they said that we don't want NHL teams being allowed to train their prospects until they're actually members of the team. So they actually banned it. And what it
Wow.
is, so during the
That hurts the
off,
athletes more than anything, man.
of course it does, and it's mainly during the off season. So during the off season, you can't have prospects come and use the facilities.
Can you rent your facilities to the prospects? That's
Your
not,
players can.
that sucks.
Like, why wouldn't you want your kid to come over and hang out with Joe Thornton for a week, or come over and lift weights with Jake Muzzin for a month? Like, why wouldn't you want these things? Like, it's silly to me that everyone else is
Yeah.
like, no, we don't want you doing it because you're actually investing in your players.
You're making us
Don't do
look
that.
bad. You're making us look bad.
That's exactly what happened, and that's why I got so mad at the time. And everyone's like, "Oh, what's the big deal?" I'm like, "What don't you
That's
see as the
just
big
something
deal?"
around the world. It's not just hockey. Is that people get so comfortable with the status quo when someone's trying to push it up a limit, and they're like, "Wait a second, we don't want to go that far. Like,
Yeah,
tone it down."
and like, not to go into crazy cap stuff, but like that's why I get mad with the whole cap, because you have some teams who have different tax amounts, or you have these different rules, different places, and I mean, as a Leaf fan, you look at all these things, and the Leafs have the highest tax, and they have this, and they have that, and then you want to talk about competitive balance, and then this and the other thing, and it's like it doesn't all line up, and it's not fair that, like, if you want a skilled team to develop skill and attract skill and make skill better for your league, whether it's the Leafs or not,
I wonder.
why wouldn't you want
I
that?
wonder if the league has like, like companies have they have like a mission statement or like that one sentence that's supposed to define everything they go to. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think the NHL's is? Make money for owners?
Make money, keep waters calm.
Yeah, like something like that. Like, I don't.
Like,
They need a rebrand in that in the offices.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like it's craziness, but
it's fun. Yeah. Speaking of
yeah.
speaking of offices, we just wanted to like bring to the front, and make sure everyone notices a story involving the Blackhawks, right?
Mhm.
So I don't think we want to go into too much details, but basically just educate yourself on the situation.
There's a Rick Westhead article that you should probably read if well, you should definitely read. It's a good it's always good to educate yourself, obviously.
Hmm.
There was a sexual assault scandal that appears to be kind of just kept quiet
For 10
by
years, yeah.
multiple, yeah, for 10 years of multiple members that are still prominent in today's NHL. And if anybody actually was involved, I think that it's going to turn into quite a large story. And if people aren't quite as involved, I think it still will be a large story, but maybe we might not hear about it as much. But yeah, educate yourself because it's something that's not good about the league. And if you're a supporter of anything, you should know everything about what you're supporting, good and bad, right?
Yep.
So I mean, don't be a
And,
blind supporter. Know what you're dealing with.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
But that being said, expansion is coming up quick.
Kind of real fast.
I'm looking forward to it. They finally announced the coach, Dave Haxtell, which was a huge surprise to everyone.
Yep. Me
But
included.
we'll see where that goes. Good thing from my angle is it opens up a coaching spot on the Leafs, and I'm hoping that Bruce Boudreau comes to the Leafs, but they have Malholtra as the power play guy. I hope they move Malholtra to the penalty kill and defense and bring in Boudreau for the offense and forwards. I think that would be pretty sick.
Oh, does
So.
he have a history of doing well with that, or I don't know, Boudreaux?
Boudreaux's known for having offensive teams and
Okay.
kind of making that quick puck transition, quick, puck to the net, high chances, like get your chance and go. Not a lot of kind of stalling, and he's known to have top power plays. He's not the best known for defensive styles and defensive schemes, but then you have Malholtra, who was a shutdown defensive penalty kill centerman, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like a nice
Well,
meshing, especially when the power play sucked ass last year on the Leafs.
yeah. Yeah. The trade market's got to be heating up right before this expansion draft for sure, too, right? I know you touched on it
Hmm.
not too long ago there about how you think some bang bangers are going to be coming.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea where those might be?
First one's going to be Eichel.
Good.
And I think it's going to be in the
You
next
want to do a
week.
beer bet on that? Pint bet?
What, you don't think Eichel will be moved?
I don't know.
Okay, sure, I'll make that bet.
Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely moved
before the first game of the season.
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure, for sure. He'll be moved before or at the draft. And the funny thing is, and what I'm laughing at is that everybody's talking about how nobody values this draft, but Buffalo's taking this approach that what they want to do is just get as many picks as they can. Because if no one else is caring about the draft, then why don't they care about the draft? But then I'm like, you have no scouts.
Yeah,
You
well,
fired your whole office.
if you just
Like,
take all the players, you can't miss.
if you don't know who you're picking and you have 72 picks, you still could end up with 0 players. Like,
They could just go to the local, what is it, the local Walmart, get a magazine that says the draft who you need to know, and just pick them in that order.
Pick that order. Yeah, they should. They'd probably do a better job. But I don't know. I'm worried about Buffalo because it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, Reinhardt's gone, Eichel's gone, and they want picks back, and they want to bring in a goalie. So if you're trading out skill, bringing in picks and a goalie, I don't care if you're bringing in Carey Price. Carey Price and behind, name your goalie, Vasilevsky. Pick whatever goalie is your favorite goalie or the best goalie that you think. Put him on a team that sucks. You think he's gonna be a good goalie? You think that's gonna be successful?
So if they move Eichel, they're basically going, and Reinhardt, Casey Middlestat is their number 1 center.
But hey, they might get Marco Rossi, or they might get, player X from this other team.
Are they just deciding that? I don't know. Well, I don't think they're trading Eichel, so I'm gonna act accordingly. And until that happens, then I can speculate what they might do.
Eichel says he wants to go to a team that will allow him to get the surgery. I don't know if that's just, I want whatever Buffalo doesn't want, just so I can get out of Buffalo. That may be the case, but it almost genuinely sounds like he wants to go to a team that is willing to support him to go through the surgery. I mean, he's got like 7 medical opinions on it, so I think he's done his due diligence to know what he wants or does not want to do, unless it's a ploy, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see how that one plays out. Matthew Tkachuk.
Other names? Yep, Matthew Tkachuk. As per Pierre LeBrun, he has been made available.
He was definitely trending all over Twitter for a couple of days.
Yeah, he didn't go as far as saying he's on the trade block. I know that's what I said, but like, what's the difference? If you're available for trade, you're on the trade block. You just might not be on the, hey, we want to trade you. Who wants you? It's just, hey, if you want a guy, come make an offer. Let's see if we should have a further conversation. Let's see if we can get a good deal.
Like, let's see if a deal is here to be done.
Exactly, yeah. It's just an open invitation to be like, I wouldn't be insulted if you came and made an offer for this guy. So I think that he could be moved. It sounds like he wants to be in an American market, which isn't good for me because I want him on the Leafs. But one team I've heard really deeply connected to him, which would be hilarious, is St. Louis.
Where Daddy played, right?
Yep. So we'll see. And I think that one team that's going to be super aggressive on the front of this, which would drive me bananas, is the Ottawa Senators.
I feel like you're making a big mistake if you're Calgary making that happen, but I guess you're in different conferences, so it's not that bad.
Right? Like you said earlier, even if you play in the Cup final.
And Ottawa has pieces to be able to give you.
It sounds right now that Ottawa is looking at Tkachuk and Kadri. Imagine a team with both Tkachuks, Kadri.
I'd watch them.
It'd be fun to watch. They'd be annoying as hell to play against.
You'd be the big bad Bruins in the Bruins division.
Right? So, I mean, if you got a team like that who's becoming, more aggressive and stuff, and you're the team that's watching these aggressive teams get bigger and badder, and you're still pounding down that skill, at some point you're gonna need somebody to stand up for them.
It's kind of interesting how these divisions work out, because it like almost becomes like a rock paper scissors kind of situation, because you got like the Leafs with the high skill people, and then Ottawa's like, oh, we can't necessarily match that, so let's go this route so we can beat up
scissors.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll go scissors. They're going paper. We'll go scissors.
And that's the best thing about NHL, and that's where I think a lot of my arguments get lost. Is like I don't want that not to be the case. I don't want everyone to build the same way, but I also don't want, 7 different ways to be successful based on manipulating. Let's just go big and bad and punch and trip and slash because we know they
It's
won't
got
call
to be
penalties
within
in
the
the playoffs.
rules. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if that's the case, then scissors we know are not a playoff tool, and then that means nobody will build scissors. And then how fun of a game is it when you only have rock, and paper? Oh, let's play rock, paper.
Yeah.
Who plays rock, paper? How fun is that?
Or rock versus rock versus rock versus rock.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
eventually you're gonna get bored and not want to keep playing, right? So,
yeah, for sure.
but yeah, the next name is Seth Jones. Seth Jones already told Columbus he's not going to resign. I think he wants to be in Colorado, but I think that team that wants him most is Philly. So we'll see. I think Philly would be really wise to get him. Jones and Provorov top pair, or two of those guys man in your top four. A pretty strong top
Yeah,
four.
now
So.
that Gostisbehere's not worked out for them, so they definitely need to find someone else to bring in.
I could see them moving him, but that would be a terrible move, Columbus, to get Werenski and Gostisbehere. Might as well let's go sign Tyson Barrie and just play fucking 4 forwards all night.
Let's get to this next guy, because this is just ridiculous. We've been talking about this for far too long now.
Everyone thinks I'm crazy.
You are
but
crazy.
When it happens,
especially now, you're even more crazy.
what? Why isn't now the best time to do it? After he wins the Stanley Cup,
Trade him.
trade him.
For those who don't know, we're talking about Carey Price. Like, we're not. You can't even keep a straight face.
I'm serious.
I know you're serious, but like, I don't see why. Like, who they
You have a goalie that's getting older.
your fans would burn your
paid-
stadium down if you won a cup with this guy who's been on your team since you drafted him, who's like would arguably be potentially be a goalie that is a captain that after Luongo for a team. Like, you never know, could have happened. For a guy that's French, not so French, but he's become French since he's been there. I think.
Have you ever read a storybook?
Yeah.
Have you ever come to the final page and it says the end?
Yeah.
What do you do then? Do you pick up a new book, or do you read that book again?
I read the sequel.
You read a new book. So this year, once they win the Stanley Cup, it's the end. Destiny happened. It's the end of the story. Time to open up a new book. Because you cannot pay.
We'll just go for the mega haul.
Look at the NHL. Do you think that you can pay? How many more years does Carey Price have? Do you remember off the top of your head?
No, but enough.
Look really
Enough
quickly.
that it's relevant.
So he's got 10.5 until 25-26. So what I referred to earlier would be the first year outside
Again,
the lockout.
okay, this is where I'm gonna say I agree with you that it makes logical sense because they have all that money locked up in him. They've now they've invested in him, but now they're at a point now where they got all these young guys who they've drafted over the past 3 or 4 years, and now they're gonna be coming up in the next year or two. They're gonna need some money, and they're not gonna have it. So
And Weber will be going out the door as well.
So I can see that they're kind of like they put all they invested in goalies at a time where people weren't really investing in goalies, and they're like, okay,
Well, you had to. He's the best goalie in the world.
no,
You had to give him the
exactly.
money.
So
yeah.
for bang for your buck, it made sense. But now it's just like, okay, it's 10 million, bang for my buck. He's coming out of he's still the best goalie, man. I can't make the argument.
They spent assets last year to get Jake Allen. You think they spent as much, was a second rounder and a fourth rounder for him to just play 1 year? He didn't play a single game in the playoffs. So what, you just bought him in for a 56-game season? You also have Caden Primo, who they're in love with, who is a young goalie. And they've also got 2 other young goalies that I don't remember their names right now, but they like as well. They also believe they can make it. So why have a 10 million goalie that you spent assets with that if you don't do anything, you'll just lose an expansion. And then you have this prospect you like coming up through waivers. He won't be waiver eligible after next year. And then 2 more young kids. Sure, you could just trade them off, keep trading them off, and keep running Price. But like, what if Price gets hurt or whatever? It's the same thing with the whole money structure. Like, wouldn't it theoretically be safer and better to get a goalie a smidge letter and get 2 $5 million goalies instead of spend 10 and 3? Like
or
they're spending
even like
$15 million
a $5
on
million
goalies.
goalie, a $2.5 million goalie, and then like a $2.5 million defenseman or whatever.
Exactly, right? Like disperse it around a little bit. So like basically the way I see it is that if you're going to move on from Price, if you feel like you need to make that change just the way that hockey is going, now or never. Because if you keep
This is
them
their best window to do it,
and
for an easy transition.
there's not going to be a higher peak to trade him for value because we know he's not the best regular season guy. Do we really believe Montreal is going to make another run like this over the next 4 years? Maybe, but probably not, right?
Well, you could say that about any team.
You could, but Deneau is a free agent. Weber's coming up on his last couple good seasons.
It's definitely
like
a Cinderella story. They're a little bit ahead of their curve right now, for sure.
yeah. So I mean, like it's almost the perfect ending where it's like you won your cup. The old guys are almost done. The young guys were stars when you won your cup. And now it's time to turn the page and read the sequel about what these stars, what these Suzukis, these Caulfields, these Romanovs, these
With their young
Caden
goalie.
Primos. Yeah, like it's. I just think it's once you start talking about these details, like I think it makes sense.
Logically, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you. But
And then you get into the fact that he's a BC boy, he's from out west. What better place to be in Seattle? Seattle's going to have a rivalry
if
with
Seattle
BC.
gets Carey Price, this is the it's so gross.
Why wouldn't it be like Fleury? Fleury didn't want to play for any other team because he had those scars, and he said, I'd only play for Vegas because they're a new team, and I don't hate them basically or whatever, right? So why wouldn't Price have a similar mentality, be like, I don't want to play anywhere else, but since Seattle's new, it's out near my hometown. It's only a quick zip over the border to my
It is on the West Coast, which
where I
is the
live.
best coast.
Right? So I mean, I think it's going to happen. I really do. I think it's going to be the Seattle. Like, who else is Seattle going to take off Montreal? Like, that's not important in this comparison, but like, I just don't know who else Montreal has available that Seattle would want other than Jake Allen. And if you're Montreal and you want to keep Price, then you just lose Allen and you carry on.
Yeah, and that's
But
potentially what they did, bringing Allen in as that here's who you're going to take.
if Caulfield's this good, if Suzuki's this good, where are you going to find this money when Weber's tied up, when Price is tied up, when all these guys are tied up? You want to bring back Deneau,
And
whatever's
definitely in a
happening with
league
UM.
where you know center depth and all this depth is very, very important.
They've already tied up a ton of money in
And
Gallagher
you don't want to
and
make the
Anderson as
same
well.
mistake the Leafs made, right?
Yeah, exactly. But they have Gallagher and Anderson on the wing as well, so that's more money that they've committed there as well. So like at some point, it's like the Leafs. You gotta move a big ticket out to. If you need 3 bodies at $3 million per, you need to move 10 out. So if there's only 2 guys making 10 over 10, then your choices are easy. It's A or B.
Yeah.
And just mathematically, I think that Montreal, if they keep Price around, are setting themselves up for probably 4 of the next 5 years not making the playoffs and maybe winning 1 round. I think if he goes to Seattle, I think that their apex is higher.
Okay.
I really do. So
All right.
I think it's time. And then the last one I had here was another goalie, Ben Bishop. I just have a feeling that Dallas is going to move him. I heard his name in trade talks at the deadline, but it didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
He seems like an asset, other than he's coming off a big injury. Only $5 million goalie for like 4 more years. I think it's actually 4.5
But why?
for 4 more years.
They need a goalie. Their
You
goalies.
got Kudobin and Ottinger.
Yeah, but they didn't really get the job done for them this year. Those 2
I know.
goalies did not perform up to what they need.
If it was me, I would keep Ottinger because he's like 6'7" off skates, so he's just kind of like Bishop. And I'd go Bishop and Ottinger, and I'd run out my 2 6'7" goalies every night, and I'd be like, Kudobin,
So,
bye-bye.
I don't know.
That's how I would do it, but we'll see.
Dallas went to the Stanley Cup the year before, right? Last year. They had a rough season this year where Sagan and Bishop are out like the whole year. So, I don't know. I feel like they want to kind of run that team back out again at least and give it a shot again.
Probably. Yeah. But cap-wise, they might be... That's where we have to start putting our head first. Like, as soon as you start talking about free agencies or trades, the first thing anyone should do is go to I use cap friendly, but go to a cap page, because you're like, oh, this team has 4 free agents, but they have $3.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how are you going to re-sign 3 players who are on average $3 to $4 million when you only have $4 million available? Are you
you
signing
really
one, bringing up 2 kids? Like
at 900,000? Are you getting some Jason Spezza type players coming in for
Yeah.
league min.
Fashion, quote unquote, plugs for lack of better expression. I mean, Spezza had a good year, but like, really, what can you get for $1 million player?
Not a whole lot.
A really good,
Fourth
one
liner.
really good 10-game stretch.
Fourth liner.
Not a guy that's going to give you enough most
A
times.
guy
like,
that sits in the
when you
press
need it.
box every now and then. Right?
Or on and off waivers
Yeah.
for the most part. Yeah. So it's just like you look at all these teams and you look at 25 teams that have no money, and you have 3 teams that can't spend money, and then you have hundreds of free agents. Where's the relief going to come from?
It feels like this could be a very big culling of the middle of like salaries, average salaries, not average, but the median salary will like go down.
Mm-hmm. If you're not a star, you just don't get paid.
As much.
Which then, if you're going to get paid $1 million, but then you can go to Switzerland or Belarus or whatever and make $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Like, your league isn't retaining talent. It's just, we'll retain the talent that we can afford, which isn't like NHL is supposed to be the best hockey in the world, right?
It's supposed to be the best of the best.
So why are we saying it's the best hockey in the world that can be fit under a cap?
Yeah.
Like, it's not the best hockey in the world. So like, I mean, I do wish the cap was gone, and there's a lot of people that are starting to call for it, to just say get rid of the cap. And I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think it will happen, but maybe depending on where things happen from now over the next couple of years, if there are no reliefs, if there are no other methods that help alleviate this, maybe they just say, you know what, we got to get rid of it.
I gotta admit, one thing I do like about baseball is that if you really, really, really want a player, you can buy him.
Yeah. Yeah. But then you get contracts up at $30 million per season, which is almost 40% of the NHL cap for a team. You know, you get George Springer and Hyun-Jin Ryu on the Jays. That's basically the NHL cap.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Crazy. So, I mean, I don't know.
But there you have it. That's the trademark of your man Tory.
Yeah, the last thing that I just wanted to add, though, is the one thing I wanted to ask you is the luxury tax. The last thing we have here, luxury tax versus franchise tag. I know I've been a proponent of it. What do you think's better, and what would you prefer to see, if not even some sort of hybrid?
I don't really understand franchise tag. So basically, you have one guy that doesn't go under the cap. Is that what you mean by that? I'd prefer luxury tax. Just if you go over, you pay a little bit to the league or whoever, and that money gets divvied up to the scrubber like teams. So like teams that can't really afford to compete, they'll get some of that tax money, and which they could use towards eventually. Like maybe they can like start a savings account and get a couple million every year, and eventually they can buy Sidney Crosby to come and play him in Arizona when he's 40 years old.
And that's I think the luxury tax is a brilliant idea, because the philosophy behind it is that you tax it, whether it's 50%, 100%. The suggestion is 100% taxable, and put it back into a pool for your alumni and your former players, and because they always say, oh, we don't have a ton of money for our former players, or players struggling with substance abuse, or struggling with former injuries, or helping with these equality programs.
I don't know if that should come from a salary tax though. That money should just come from the players. And the companies match it, like in general, as part of like kind of like a union due kind of thing. I feel like kind of like a.
I think the team should pay it. If the Leafs are screwed right now with cap, but they want to go and buy a $7 million player, and they're willing to put $7 million into a pool to help former players, why isn't that a good thing?
I think by going over, like spending more, you should be punished a little bit. So that way you do think about spending too much, which kind of will screw the small market teams. But if you're spending too much, I'm trying to think of the small market teams. I think the small market teams should be able to get a little bit of a benefit from it, and everyone splits the money, not just your team's alumni. Like
no, that's what I mean. Is like the NHL alumni, not the Leafs alumni. Like it goes to the pool that helps.
Okay, I thought you meant that. Like if the Leafs had a luxury tax, okay, that makes sense.
And I think that there should be a limit of days. So like, let's say you can be in the luxury tax for 100 days or something. So that means like, come trade deadline, if you think you're legit, there's 4 teams and team X goes and gets a top forward.
If you have it, you have it the whole time. I don't think there needs to be a day.
So Leafs could pick up like somebody on a 4-year deal. Let's say Jack Eichel. Yeah, we'll pay $10 million for the next 6 years. You're good with that?
Yeah. As long as
Yeah, I
they
don't think
pay
that
it.
that provides the competitive balance that we talk about.
I think it does, because if you make the tax, like say you're 10 million above the cap, and for every dollar you spend above the cap, you have to match a dollar to this. You're technically paying Jack Eichel 20 million a year. That you're gonna think twice before doing that.
How much is a cup worth to some franchises?
Well, then they can pay it. I'm okay with that.
But then competitive balance. What
I
if
don't
you're
care about that.
Arizona and you see the Leafs put $40 million of luxury tax? Are you not going to be
See,
pissed?
no, because I've lived with that my whole life. I've been in a division with the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. It's just you just feel even
But doesn't
better
that
when
drive
you.
you nuts as a fan, thinking that you just maybe aren't quite good enough because you won't
No,
spend like that?
it drives me nuts as a fan that my team doesn't do that when they can.
That's
Um,
true. See, I
I
think
think
there's a benefit of
big players in the business world, I think they should be matched with big players. So like, I don't know.
yeah. I think that there should be a hybrid system, to be honest. I think that the franchise tag is a brilliant idea waiting to be exposed by the NHL. Like, think of this. You have the NHL who has, I don't know, the franchise tag series of sports cards or
Yeah,
whatever. They're the
and
so there's only 32
NFTs.
spots. Yeah, exactly, NFT. There's only 32 spots. If you want to be a franchise player where you get endorsements and NFTs and all these other things, go to a different team. If let's say the Leafs, Marner and Matthews. Well, Marner, if you want to be the franchise guy,
See you later.
maybe you want to go to a different team. And then that you want to talk about low market teams. That's where it provides the benefit to them, because if Marner says, I want to be a franchise guy, I see Matthews making 3 times as much money. He gets these NFTs, gets whatever. Oh, trade me to Arizona because I'd rather be a franchise player than competing for the cup. Then like there'll be players that are like that, right? I'm not saying
Yeah,
Marner is, but I'm just saying like situations like that, like that helps the small market teams because yeah, they might not want to use
more
it,
marketable.
but
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
exactly. And then it's so much marketing and it's your top players and like theoretically it should be probably the best player on each team, right? Like imagine Matthews and McDavid being in a group where you can just like, you know, franchise tag all versus the All Stars that year or something. You know what I mean? Like you can with $1 million on the line for charity or something. Like you can do so many different things with the franchise tag, and like it sucks because obviously some teams will use it, some teams will abuse it, but it's only one player.
Hmm.
So even if it's like you could look at a team like I don't know who it would be, but name a team that has money that maybe doesn't have a player. They could go to Florida and be like, we'll take Bobrovsky and we'll franchise him because his cap's insane and we don't want that to hurt us. We'll franchise him and then we'll just use him as a backup
But
goalie
then
while you give us tons of picks and prospects.
then you use that situation where it goes from the franchise tag being like a next level like marketing thing to like, oh, it's kind of like they're just using it to get rid of money. Yeah.
Which I mean, if you're in Arizona, you're not, and you're a cap floor team, you're not gonna use the franchise tag, right? Because you need that money to reach the floor. I mean, or maybe to your point, you franchise a third line player who's making $2 million because that day you need cap space.
Yeah. We'll
But
see.
I do think that they need one of the two, and I do think that one of these two things will be a thing within maybe not this summer, but by the end of the next year, this will be something I'm almost certain of.
Sounds good. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Lots to unfold over these next 2 months, really.
Yeah, and then listen about how the Habs won the cup.
Yep. Well, I'll look forward to that.
I won't.
At least we can both say our team lost to the team that won the cup.
Yeah, you lost. We got embarrassed. Slight difference.
You guys took them to 7. We lost in 6. So
We were up 3-1.
true. We're up.
I'll beat you at this game all day, man.
So
I'm hardened with these bad, poor, negative facts about the Leafs.
All right, man.
Anyways,
I think that's it for me, and
sounds good.
you enjoy the rest of this fine Sunday, and we'll see you guys for the next podcast.